All right, no sense wasting any more time. Let's hop right into it, folks. Thank you so much for joining me once again. It is once again Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, and what a day it has been. Glad to be joined by our friend Jeff Waldorf in the background, waiting in the wings. Let me say hi to the chat real quick. Thank you so much, first off, to the mods. I know you're probably going to have your hands full in there tonight, so thank you for doing what you do. Let's hope to keep this as respectful as humanly possible a conversation as we could have. Thank you so much to Julie. Thank you so much to Gamer. Thank you so much to Nick, Pam, Denise, Chris, Rob. I appreciate you guys. Hey, Monica, how are you? What's up, Tiff? What's going on? Jupiter, Judy, Kathleen, Kristen, Debbie. You guys are the best. I appreciate you for being here, but I'm not going to keep you guys waiting or our guest waiting any longer. So without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, the man himself, Jeff Waldorf from The Logical Leftist. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Brian. Thank you for this, for bringing me on the show. It's really good to be here. I mean, I don't know about the subject matter, but certainly it is good to have a conversation with you in person, kind of in person, I guess.
Well, it's good to finally get you locked down. I mean, like I said on yesterday, you're like fucking trying to get a hold of the president. It's like trying to get a face-to-face meeting with the president for crying out loud over here. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Again, tough subject matter we'll be discussing today. So I appreciate you taking the time out once again. Before we get into all of the craziness that we saw today, I would ask if anybody could or is in the position to do so, please feel free to contribute to the channel. There's a multitude of different ways. You become a channel member. Just underneath me, there's a Venmo up in the corner. You can contribute there. It goes directly to my Venmo. Bust a buck and try your luck. Support some independent media. Goes a long way. You can also check out patreon.com/Boston Brian, and that would go a long way because that'll pretty much the backbone of our community, the YouTube memberships and the Patreon. So I had to get the self-promotional bullshit out of the way, Jeff. Sorry about that. All right. So a lot happened today. First off, we should probably start talking about with what was the most discussed story today, which was the 3 students that were shot at the Colorado high school. Well, I'm sorry, that wasn't the most discussed, but probably should have been more discussed than it was. But due to the circumstances and due to the high profile nature, apparently, of Charlie Kirk, that was kind of put into the background. But another day, another couple, at least, school shootings, both happening on school campuses, one being a college, one being a high school, and 3 students were critically injured, and another, Charlie Kirk, was mortally wounded. What I guess what are your thoughts on today, right off the bat, before we get too deep into convo, I guess?
I think that it's unfortunately it's another day in America, okay, where we have school shootings and killings, gun violence pretty much every day. I mean, look, according to the Gun Violence Archive, over 10,000 people have died from gun violence just this year alone. Okay. 300 people were killed in mass shootings just this year. The year's not even over. And so this is unfortunately the new reality that we have been living in. It's not even a new reality. It's just reality that we've been living in for a very, very long time. And we were talking before the show about, Sandy Hook and how there was no action done after Sandy Hook. And, if we can allow little kids to be murdered in their classrooms, then we can pretty much allow anything going forward. And that's exactly what's happened. It's not gotten any better. I don't know if it's gotten any worse. It certainly feels like it's gotten worse, but it certainly hasn't gotten any better.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of, rightly so, a lot of emotions flowing around, because of not only the graphic nature of what happened, because again, the invocation of emotions that, just the policies, I guess, that he espoused at once brings up for people. So I know a lot of people are angry. A lot of people are feeling a lot of emotions today, but I would just like to say, I don't think it should be too much of us. And I don't think you even have to necessarily care. I don't say you have to keep Charlie in your thoughts if you don't want to. I just think that you don't have to. There's no place to celebrate it, and obviously it should be very easy for us to go against and not condone anything of this type, any political violence like this. I don't think it's very far-fetched for us as lefties to be able to have empathy and compassion for not only his friends but also his wife and his kids, while also not dwelling on this more than we dwell on, again, the 3 students that were shot at the school, or anybody that's been a victim of gun violence or has died as a result of the lack of gun regulations and conversation around gun violence in this country. In either today, the day before, the day before that, the day before that. I mean, I'm sure we could go back every single day and figure out stories that, me and you aren't aware of. We don't know the names of people, didn't bring up reactions like this, didn't garner the media attention that this garnered, right? So, I know people are rightly feeling a lot of emotions, but I think there's a few things right off the bat that as human beings, we can agree upon that, this in no way furthers anybody's conversation. If anything, it gives Donald Trump and I believe his regime more justification to accrue more power and use more authoritarian dictatorial power. Again, not that he needs any more reason to do so, but anything that can be politically advantageous or politically expedient for these people, they seem to be using to their benefit, right?
Yeah, I mean, look,
there's a lot going on. I know.
There is. Already Elon Musk over on X has said the left is basically that we're all, murderers. And it's like, it shouldn't be surprising to anybody. It's not surprising.
And again, let me just point out, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is not having a suspect in custody, knowing a motive, knowing anything about the situation that took place, right? And I believe we were talking back behind the scenes. Like, I think this has kind of been bungled to some extent by the police in the area. I've seen several suspects now, quote unquote, the suspect is in custody only to be released because it's not him. Guy arrested or taken into custody with a BB gun. I know Utah being an open carry state probably makes this a little bit more difficult because they're probably looking at anybody with a weapon now and stopping them and questioning them and this and that. It's probably making things a lot more difficult for them. But to suggest that in some way this is like a purple-haired, blue-haired lib, trans person that hates Trump, we know that all of a sudden, and it's war against the left, like Jesse Waters and Fox News, Elon Musk, so many people on the right are already calling for, is pretty fucking reckless and egregious in a situation like this, where the guy is still on the loose and we don't know whose side of the aisle, or even if that matters. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle the guy fucking falls on, right? In my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the person that did that murder, I mean, I think we can all agree, okay, on that. And, it's this entire situation is just incredibly messed up. You know what I'm saying? It's so fucked. All right.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to really I watched the video. Okay, that video was pretty hard to watch. Again, this is not somebody that we like or agree with, but what you were saying about the basic human reaction of oh my god, this is horrifying.
Right.
You feel that it's visceral. It's in your gut. You know what I'm saying? That this is another human being, and that life is now snuffed out, gone. And it just should make people think too of all the other people that this happens to everywhere in this country as a result of weak gun laws, our gun culture. I talked earlier today on my show about how we have a gun culture of violence. You know what I'm saying? I mean, think about what arguments are being used to defend the Second Amendment as the right believes that it is, like unfettered access to weaponry, right? Self-defense and fight what? watering the tree of liberty with blood, basically fighting against tyranny. We already have a tyrannical government. They're not doing a damn thing with that, with their guns. And so, the self-defense thing, again, that kind of falls away too. But basically, both of those arguments are all about violence. And so we have a culture of gun violence. It's not just about, like, for example, Switzerland, right? They love their guns over there, but they make family events and they have recreational shooting. I used to work at a shooting club back in high school. So I'm familiar with guns. I've been around guns. I've shot guns. I have no problem with guns. I have no problem with Second Amendment, right?
The damn Swiss, they can even mix alcohol with weapons and somehow still not be as dangerous as we are.
Because they have a different gun culture. One that is not focused on violence. Whereas we,
Rambo,
in this country, exactly, we lionize violence. And we, put people who are violent up on pedestals in this country. And so that right there is one of the core problems, I think, is our culture. And then, of course, the next one is easy access to weaponry because of that culture. And very, very little respect for life. We don't have respect for life. And it's funny because, you've got one side that calls himself very pro-life that doesn't seem to have respect for life.
No, and that's why I don't think it's wrong or insensitive to bring up the fact that, this same guy was once the guy that got up on stage and said, like, death is something that we just have to live with in order to, hold on to our freedom. I'm paraphrasing. But, it's like we're talking about children dying in schools, and he's talking about that as like something that we just need to live with in order to, maintain our freedoms or our liberties or whatever the fuck. And it's like, I don't think it's that crazy to point out the irony of how it ended and, just how far we could take this conversation to now, hopefully, maybe, finally push this over the edge. And I'm not even saying that, I have any hope or trust, just like you said, when we were talking about Sandy Hook, if that didn't, finally push this country over the edge, if that didn't finally fucking make, something click in the minds of the American people, then I have absolutely no faith to believe that this will. But again, there's, we can't live without hope either, right? We have to continuously use what situations are given to us to, again, create the best outcome that we could possibly create from that situation. We didn't ask to be dealt this. We didn't want this. I don't wish death upon any of the people that I report on or talk about on this show. We talk about Greg Kelly and even people as disgusting as Jesse Waters and the whole rest of them. I don't wish death upon these people. I don't wish their family to lose their husbands and fathers and whatever. And nor do I think that extrajudicial killing is going to further our political situation or political party in any way, shape, or form. Again, and we don't know who did this, why they did this. Let's continue to reiterate where people on the right who are seemingly trying to stoke this into a civil war without knowing any of the fucking details. And we just don't know. We don't have the answers yet. And it'd probably be best to wait until we do have those answers in order to make, a better assessment. But I don't think it's too crazy or going too far to say that it was, an unbelievably terrible scene, an egregious act, something, again, you don't wish upon the worst enemy. And then, I probably shouldn't even get into it, but a lot of people are excusing this like, something, using him in reference to a Nazi. But it's like, okay, well, are we really not going to try to look at the difference between somebody or an SS soldier on the front lines putting, 200 people in a pit and maybe, the guy that is involved in the Nazi Socialist Party that was, I don't know, doing paperwork or, I don't know, part of something with a newspaper or something, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a difference, right? You're not going to just go waltz up and shoot the train driver, I don't think, you know what I mean? Or whatever the hell it was. Probably a bad example, but I don't think there's any justification for what we saw today. And I don't think that's too much or too egregious for anybody to say, regardless of what your political affiliation is.
Yeah, I'm just not one of those people that celebrates, when another person dies or is killed. You know, look, you know, we have the right to not really feel bad about it, about the situation. We do have that right. But you know, I don't feel as if celebrating it is the best thing either. Um, just because I'm someone who, you know, I want what's best for people. I want what's best for the country. I want what's best for humanity. And you know, I'm a peaceful person. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm a peaceful person, and I like when we're able to resolve differences, you know, peacefully. Um, but unfortunately, it's seeming like there are too many people these days now that don't feel the same way that I do. You know, that do feel as if it's acceptable to go and use violence to, you know, be able to solve their problems. And we
And
you know, look, we saw that with the Minnesota lawmakers as well. Okay, that were gunned down. Okay, and that doesn't get talked about either. I mean, it got addressed by Trump once,
I was
and
astonished at how fast that dropped out of the fucking
yeah,
political sphere.
everyone just completely, pretty much forgot about it. Forgot about it. And so that's another thing too. So and that's another reason why I don't really feel a whole lot. Again, I do feel bad for his, you know, family. I
Mhm.
do, because that is somebody that they did care about. Okay, so that's as far as that's as much empathy as I can bring out. Because for the rest,
Well, nor do I think you should be
out.
required to express anymore, right? Like I said earlier in the show, sometimes, and this is not directed or pertaining to you, but sometimes, just no comment is probably the best thing to do, right? If you
Yeah,
don't, sometimes like we were talking about, sometimes the shit you would say to your family behind closed doors or your loved ones behind closed doors isn't the shit you should necessarily be putting in the fucking public chat
yeah,
or posting on public social media, right? Like there's a difference between, I'm not forcing people to feel bad
mhm,
for Charlie Kirk. But you know what I mean. I would hope that most people would have the humanity, empathy, and compassion to put themselves in the shoes of the kids and the
yeah,
family members and the friends and stuff, and at
right,
least be able to look at it through that, while also having the what I think is a pertinent conversation to have with what has been advocated for. Again, looking at the times that we're in, sending armed National Guard into Democratic cities. It's like, what
right,
type of reaction did we tell you that was going to invoke? Like, we told you that this has the fucking there's a reason why a government usually doesn't send its own military into its own
mhm,
cities, because of the shit that it could stir up, because of the troubles that it could cause. And and again, no justification for anything that took place, but again,
right,
look at the times and what we're dealing with here, and compare that, and pair that up with the ease of getting a weapon, the ease of getting a
mhm,
fucking gun, and it's like you got a recipe for disaster. And it's almost
you really do.
crazy to me that this shit doesn't happen more, you know. And there's a lot of people out there that think, as a divisive figure, or as somebody that is a public figure and speaks at crowds like this and
Mhm,
advocates for the things that he does, he probably should have taken a page out of the Donald Trump playbook and maybe thrown up a couple of things of plexiglass, at his things, just to be safe. You know what I mean? But again, how a lot of these conservatives believe that everybody with a gun, that they're advocating for guns, and everybody with a gun is on their side sometimes, and it kind of gives them that false sense of security, where
yeah,
it's like, you know what I mean, there's mentally unstable people all over the place, and making it
mhm,
easier for them to get guns puts everybody in a more dangerous fucking position.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And here's the thing, you know, I told you that I watched the video, right? And it is rough, rough to watch. But like what I got from that,
Just a second, bud, and I'm sorry. We're doing our best to turn this into a wider discussion, and not
yeah,
to again, focus singularly upon that one incident. I think we've done a great job at bringing up several different incidents that have happened. The Democratic senator representatives. It might have been before we started recording that we were talking about Gabby Gifford and the other school shootings that again didn't invoke this type of reaction. Like, we're trying to widen this conversation out so that it is not just about this. Because I think it's very important to again use this in order to, if we can find some common ground or whatever the fuck it is, and we can find some way forward, then it's our obligation to try to find that way forward. Like, nobody's coming to save us, nobody's coming to mediate for us to do this. It's up to us. So sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make that clear because I've seen that that's a pretty big through line in a lot of the chats that I've seen today is why are we still giving them the airtime, but again, it's all anybody's talking about. I'm trying to turn it into a wider conversation that we can make, more politically advantageous to our fucking society. So go ahead, Jeff. My apologies.
Yeah, I was just going to make a quick point about how it felt, how it seemed like this is somebody who knew what they were doing, that this was someone who may have been, and I'm just guessing here, and I don't have any information to back this up, military trained, someone very comfortable with weapons, to be able to hit someone like that from 200 yards away on top of a building. And so, this is something, again, if it was someone who was ex or current military, that would be very interesting as far as like the facts of what's going on and what that motive could be. Because again, that motive does matter, especially in the context of what we're, experiencing right now as a nation, what we're experiencing right now as a people, as a culture, with this culture of political violence that has been absolutely heating up, especially in the past, 9 months, but even longer than that. I still remember the times back 2014, whenever, back in those years where the right was propping up targets of Barack Obama and shooting them, and making videos about it.
Which is turned into Christmas cards with you and your whole family holding the biggest fucking guns you could possibly find to make it as egregious as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I was just reading the comments here. Well, the crazy, I don't know. It's a tough, honestly, it's a tough thing to discuss. And like I said to you earlier, like I was not looking forward to coming on to discuss it. And I have been sent, to your point that you were talking about, that we still don't know what the motive or what's behind it and how that's, something that is probably pretty important. I've been sent a couple pictures here of people that either match the description of the police scanner, people that have been put out on social media. I'm very hesitant to show anything or anybody in fear of that not being the correct suspect or correct person and them being, incorrectly labeled online. So I'm going to refrain from putting up anything that has not been, 100% confirmed up to this point. But I'm sure there are several different pictures and possible identities to the people floating around out there. But again, to bring this into the wider conversation of, ICE ripping people out of Home Depot parking lots, going into, Lowe's, going into, schools, churches, courtrooms. You're talking about the National Guard, again, what's going on in Chicago. And then it seems to be the focus now. Well, what is the focus now is not what's going on in Chicago, but what seemingly happened in Utah. Now, is Donald Trump going to send the National Guard into Utah now because of how dangerous it clearly is? Or is that, not something that's that would fly with him,
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to send the National Guard into Utah. If you've noticed where he's been sending the National Guard, it has been into blue cities with larger minority populations. And I think it's pretty obvious because a lot of the states that have sent in their National Guard forces into DC, for example, come from states that have higher crime rates, higher violent crime rates than DC. I mean,
Right.
you look at Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, it's a bloodbath there. Okay, especially compared to DC. I forget the numbers of what 14 and a half out of 100,000 people is the murder rate. So compare that to others, which are as high as like 42 per 100,000. Right. So
yeah,
I mean, it's just it's there. Those are the places that are sending people to DC to try to crack down on violent crime. Well, I mean, you might want to start with your own backyard.
Well, and that's just the thing. And I know a lot of people are saying, like, and this is all speculation because that's all we have at this point. I'll reiterate again that we don't have any definitive answers as to who, why, or, any of the other questions that you'd probably want the answers to in this situation. But, from what I saw, there was 17 mile an hour sustained winds at the time. It was 30 mile an hour gusts. Again, being in the bowl, I don't know how much that affected, but, the being pretty far away, but also having, now with the optics on some of these weapons and the ease of use of some of these weapons, it's like it's tough for us to tell, glean anything from that. You know what I mean? It could have been a very lucky shot from somebody, or it could have been a professional that knew exactly what the hell he was doing. But again, it's only speculation up until this point, and I don't really know what that buys us. I don't know where that gets us. So I've tried to stay away from that whole thing, really, and just, again, whatever information we get, let's take that information and let's digest that, and then we'll go from there and we'll figure it out. It's again, a horrendous thing. There are a ton of issues and a ton of conversations that can be had off of this horrendous act. And there's also a ton of other conversations, both with domestic policy and with foreign policy and geopolitics, that still need to be had at the same time. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a crazy thing, but again, I don't want to force anybody, nor do I think anybody should be forced to, like, show their compassion or empathy. But I think you should be forced not to gloat or glean or celebrate or condone anything like this. At the fucking, I think would be a humane and respectful thing to do at the very, very least. But above and beyond, guns and, what we saw today, what do you think is the most pressing issue that we now face, either regarding Donald Trump, the Republican Party as a whole, going into midterms as a Democrat, as Democrats? What do you think is the biggest thing that we should be focusing on? Is it continuing to hammer away at Epstein? Is it, what do you think?
I mean, that's a good question. I feel like we've been so busy reacting to to everything that's going on, that I don't think we're really thinking too much. At least I'm speaking for myself here, that I haven't really had too many thoughts about, what the future is. Right now, I do know that the Democrats have a big problem. The Democrats are still more unpopular than the Republican Party. I don't know how. Well, maybe I do know how. Because they really haven't done much leadership wise to fight. Okay. And so there are a lot of angry members of the Democratic Party that are focusing that anger on the leadership and saying, why are you not out there opposing this? Why are you not out there fighting harder? And you can see from, the promotion of Gavin Newsom, who actually is one of his staff members is trolling Trump in his particular way. That right there is enough to perk up many of the people in the Democratic base into thinking, oh my gosh, Gavin Newsom 2028. Now, I don't like that personally. I don't know what your thoughts are on Gavin Newsom. I'm not a huge fan. Okay. But I do like what he's doing. And I do like that he is one of the few that has stood up to Donald Trump. I also like that JB Pritzker has also stood up, and others as well. And I think the problem is that the current leadership in the Democratic Party is not, it's not really up to the task. And I really think that probably should be one of the biggest things that people as progressives, people on the left should be focused on is, all right, let's fix our party. Let's give people a vision and find a way to enact it. All right. Find a way to get that message out and get people to see that, yes, the Democrats are fighting, the Democrats are opposing Trump, and they do have a plan to help working people. And I think if they do that, then they're going to have, they're going to see returns because of how unpopular this regime really is.
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as Gavin Newsom, we've praised him recently for, again, his social media accolades and being able to get Fox News and these other right-wing organizations to pretty much make fun of themselves by calling out Gavin Newsom for doing what Donald Trump does seriously, when Gavin Newsom was clearly mocking Donald Trump. But again, we've also rightly called him out for sitting down with Steve Bannon and people like Charlie Kirk and not giving them the who, what, and where, for bringing them onto his platform as opposed to going to talk to his, for some of the his stances that he's come out with and changed. We've definitely have criticism for there. It's tough now because I feel like it's easier when you have a leader to grasp onto that gives you something that you want to grasp onto. Like right now, the Democratic leadership is not giving anybody something that they want to grasp onto, right? And, as degenerate and disgusting, as corrupt as Donald Trump is, he still gives his base something that they can hang on to and something that they can get behind, right? And we know how gross and disgusting everything that he stands for is, but still, I think it makes it easier for a political party to rally if they're rallying around someone or something, when right now we're just rallying against the other political party and instead of rallying around somebody on our side that we see as our a leader, or somebody that's calling themselves a leader, or at least showing themselves willing to step up. I know JB Pritzker has, rhetorically been doing a lot and, in helping the Democrats down in Texas and again, going after, but it's like he hasn't really made it clear if he's going to make a run or if he's trying to be the new head of the Democrats or, the whole Bernie and AOC thing was awesome. Had a ton of fucking momentum, ton of people going to these things, but wasn't really clear still what's going on with that. You know what I mean? So it was like, I just feel as somebody, again, and I probably bring this up too much on the show, somebody coming that's played sports his whole life. Like it's easier when I know that I have captains that I can trust and, a coach that I respect. And, it just makes it easier to do my job and to, I don't know, it's harder when you're looking around like, okay, who can we follow? I know we have the policies and the principles, but who do we have to represent those to get it out there? And then you see people like Mondani and they're, being cast aside by the establishment Democrat wing of the party, not getting behind them and using his momentum, regardless of what they actually think of his fucking policies. It's not about the New York mayoral race so much. It's about looking like a united force. It's like looking like a fucking party that is together, is ready to fight anything and everything that comes in its way. And we're going to do it as a cohesive unit, as opposed to, well, he's got good policies, but, I get so much APAC money in the background that I'm not going to be able to, give him my fucking endorsement or whatever. And it's pissing a lot of people off. It hurt us a lot, before. And I think it's not giving anybody any hopes right now when you see, again, the path that the Democratic leadership or lack thereof has presented us in recent, in the recent memory here,
Yeah, exactly. And, you mentioned the word hope. Okay. I think that's a really important thing. That's a really important thing because what we have a lack of right now is any hope. I mean, you talk to people, on our side and, people who believe in things like Medicare for all, there's no hope there. There's no hope with anyone, especially when you look at Democratic leadership. They're not doing anything to engender that hope. You know what I'm saying? Hope for a better world, hope for like good policy, hope for defending, working people and raising people's wages and, giving people health care. I don't see anyone having really any hope in people like Chuck Schumer, okay, or Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, when you come out and you say in the beginning of the Trump administration, what leverage do we have? When you do have the leverage, when you have the ability to, pull a Mitch McConnell and block everything and you don't use it, and then you say when people criticize you for that, what leverage do we have? What can we do? There is nothing we can do. That's where the hope fades and goes away. And so we don't have any of that. There are a few people like you have mentioned, Mamdani, hope there. But guess what? The establishment is trying to crush him. Absolutely. I mean, Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, it is being backed by people like Bill Clinton and other establishment figures. This guy and Eric Adams working with Donald Trump, making deals with him. There's no hope. There's no hope there. There's no hope in the current Democratic leadership, which I have described on my show, and I know this upsets some people, as a gerontocracy, where you have too many people that are, I wouldn't say too old physically, although that is partly true as well, or in many cases true, but old ideas. You know what I'm saying?
In their way of thinking.
Old strategy. Exactly. Where they're still scared of what happened with Mondale, where, we've got to do what in 1990, in the 1990s, Bill Clinton did and triangulate to the center. Whereas we've been ratcheted way over to the right since then. And so where the center existed is now considered crazy far left lunacy by so many people, which it's not. It's just, common sense. It's healthcare for everyone. It's childcare. It's affordable housing. That's what we're asking for. That's what we're looking for. And of course, me, like, me, I'd go a little bit further. I was talking about how, socialism would be great on the show. Democratization of the workplace, worker co-ops at the very least. That would be fantastic. But like, that's not even part of the conversation anymore, because here are things that are common sense. Higher wages for working people that are being considered as far left lunacy. Respect for people in their lives, their choices, what bathroom they use is considered lunacy these days. Respect using a goddamn pronoun, which we use all the time. Everyone uses pronouns. You can't have a conversation without a pronoun. And the right melts down over it. It considers the use of pronouns, the correct pronouns, as lunacy. And so this country is pretty much lost the plot. And so we have got to get back to a place where the Democrats can actually not only fight back, but present a positive vision for working people. And only then can we push back against the hate, vitriol, and demagoguery that we see from the right wing, from the Trump administration, Trump regime.
I think it just confuses people a lot when it's like, why the hell would we want fucking Andrew Cuomo or Adams? Like, what the hell are we talking about? Like, even again, if you're not politically care for or particularly care for Mamdani or everything that he espouses or wants to enact, like, can we at least just all agree that he's a much better choice than any of the two other choices, or the Republican? It's like, what are we talking about here? And it confuses people a lot, and it puts us in a difficult position because it's like, we also have to be sure to make clear that the most pressing problem facing our country right now is again, the Republican Party, what they want to do to this country, their grip on power and what they're willing to do to hold on to that, while also trying to fix things in our own system, while not pissing off people that are like, don't call out your own side and don't do this and don't do that. And, people, because on one hand, it's like, I understand we need the power in order to get, the power back, in order to change legislation, in order to enact these policies that we want to enact. But it's like, what's the point if we keep getting back into that situation with the same type of people only to lose it in the next election cycle because nothing is really done when promises are made, but promises aren't kept, which again pisses off everybody so much that they're willing to vote for the other side and they forget about what they just did to them during COVID or did to them during January 6th or, sending in the National Guard. Like the memory, the short-term memory span is played upon by these people so much. And it's really, it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this position to, again, highlight just how fucking dangerous the other side is. And that's the main issue. And that's our main enemy. And that's who we're fighting against, while also saying, like, look, we need to go into battle with the best fucking team possible. We can't go into this, half-cocked with people that we don't truly trust, with people that don't truly have our back. I'm not going into fucking battle with somebody that I'm not sure will have my fucking back. You hear it all the time.
Right.
People in battle fight for the person to the right and to the left. It's not so much about the mission anymore. It's not so much about fighting for your country anymore. It's about fighting for your brother and your sister to your right and your left, and knowing that motherfucker is going to have your back if it ever comes to that. Right. And I need to go into battle. I need to go into the midterms knowing that we have the fucking most cohesive unit with the people that are going to have our fucking backs and follow our mission, and not just hand back power and get into power and not do anything with it and just fucking keep us in this continuous fucking hamster wheel of going back and forth without ever actually progressing, without ever actually moving society forward. So, it's a tough position to be in, while not, trying to, overly critique your side while distracting from the egregious and blatant danger ahead of us. But also, that's something that needs to be done. I say on this time all the time. We had Chris Cluey on, ex-NFL punter running for an assembly seat here in California. And it's like, after your fucking games, the first thing you did the next time you met was to study the film. You study the fucking game and figure out where you fucked up and right, where you can get better and where we could improve on this play or that play. And I think that's hugely beneficial, and that's why these teams do it. And I think that's all we're doing here in trying to ask for the best representation for our side. And I'm sorry to ramble, but I felt like that was necessary to back up your point there. And I just don't feel like we're getting that. They're not giving us anything to grasp onto, and we're there with our hands out raised, looking for something to fucking hold on to. And it's yet to be extended down to us is what I feel like.
Right. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think we all know what that reason is. And that's the big corporate money in politics. That is the corruption in our system by people that donate gigantic sums of money. I mean, we saw that during the 2024 election. We saw the influence of big money in politics. We saw the influence of, the people, the consultants that told Kamala Harris to stop calling Republicans weird and start talking about democracy and start talking about how, you want the most lethal military, and start talking about how, you're going to support Israel 100%, even though the Democratic base is like, hey, maybe we shouldn't support Israel as they do a genocide in Gaza. How about we, stop sending them weapons? And even that was too much, because you mentioned AIPAC money, Democratic majority for Israel money, which really does get involved in a lot of Democratic primaries, crushing progressive candidates under a flood of corporate right-wing donor money. Because that's what that is. That's where that comes from. Because there isn't a lot of money on the left, and you've said it before, and I think we've all said this before, people on the left, leftist commentators, that there is no money here. There is no billionaire backers here. Okay, there's not a lot. Okay,
Well, that's why I think we're
yes.
barking up the wrong tree with that whole fucking chorus thing. You know, I don't think we're ever going to get on the same playing field, even if we were to fight fire with
Yeah.
fire in that same regard. You know what I mean? I think there's ways to fight fire with fire, but I don't think we're ever going to get on the same playing field there. And it's probably better to keep that as open and as transparent as humanly possible to keep ourselves in the clear, considering we are the ones advocating for no dark money, you know, money out of fucking politics. So I guess that leads me into my next question, which you kind of walked yourself into, which I wasn't going to bring up. But what were your thoughts on the whole Taylor Lorenz Wired.com article about the whole chorus and the 1630 fund? We've spoken about it kind of at length on the show, but you know, obviously not having you on the show before, I'm kind of curious as to what your take was. You know, considering again, as I would say in the show, to try to be principled and you know consistent. I'm going to call it out regardless of who's, you know, behind it or, you know, benefiting from it, because that's just what consistency and principles mean to me.
Yeah. So what I think about that is, first of all, I don't take any of that money. And I do believe 100% in transparency. Okay. I believe that it would be good to fund progressive commentators, but not with these, you know, kind of shadowy organizations. And I don't, first of all, or second of all, let me just say that I don't blame some of the creators for taking that money, because there isn't any on the left. But I really also don't like the fact that it was obscured, that you couldn't talk about it. And that you couldn't say, oh, by the way, we're backed by this organization, and you know, that is funding our show and helping us and training people and whatever. Okay. I don't buy some of the arguments that some of the commentators have made about, oh no, see, I signed up and I'm being trained. You see, no, you've got like 1 million subscribers. You're not being trained. Okay.
Right.
I don't buy that at all. But some of the smaller ones, yes, I could see that. You know, and how to do SEO, how to do media, and how to do social media, and get the most out of your, you know, out of your followings, out of your channels. And I think that is important. I think those are skills that you could definitely need on the left, because the right wing's eating our lunch when it comes to social media, when it comes to reach. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that billionaires own all these different platforms. And I do think that they deprioritize lefty content and promote right-wing content because it doesn't threaten their business model. The left wing does, because we call for higher taxes and more regulations, whereas the right calls for less taxes, lower taxes, less regulation. And so all of that, I mean, really plays into, you know, fascism. That's what, you know, a lot of obviously a lot of businesses are going to go along with fascism because of those two factors. Okay. And so I'm talking about how the left, it does need to be funded, but we don't need a Joe Rogan of the left. What we need are people that just have, you know, a base of support from viewers. And I'm not talking about audience capture, because I know that could be an issue as well, potentially, right? But people who are funded primarily by their audiences to do what they already do, you know, to do the job. Like, again, that's what I do. I'm primarily funded by the audience, YouTube ads, Patreon, YouTube memberships. That's what keeps me going. And it's, it ain't much. Okay. And I'm sure you can also attest to that, but that's really having it, you know. Bernie Sanders, during his first run, raised so much money, $27 at a time. That should be, I would like that to be the model. You know, I would like that, but you have to have reach. You have to build out a viewership and actually get out there to the people. And that's a difficult thing. But as far
I think that's why it would have made sense for the smaller creators on there to get the bigger checks, as opposed to, again, $8,000 a month going to Pac-Man's thumbnails or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
if we're really trying to boost those smaller creators out there, let's give them the financial backing. Let's give them, the resources, and let's put on any restrictions on the content and that type of stuff. I think we're pretty much in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Like, as long as it's open and transparent, like, I have no problem with people being like, oh, that guy tells the truth. I like what he says. Let me say that I'm going to throw some money to fund his channel. He can put it on his website. He can fucking tell people know where it comes from. I'm proud of it. He's proud of it. People know about it. That way, people aren't doing this like whole guessing game of who is, who isn't. You never know. They say independent, but are they independent? Especially somebody that just gave up a career in plumbing to start, doing content creation full time. It's kind of like I can tell you to tell my chat, like, I would feel like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I was getting this money in the background while, simultaneously asking you guys for $2, $1 and $2 donations. You know what I mean? Like, that would eat my lunch and I'd be done. Right. But I guess we should, I kind of want to switch topics, if I may, because another big story this week was obviously the Epstein birthday letter book or secrets or whatever the hell you wanted to call it. Again, in my opinion, just goes to show, if anything, that everybody around him knew exactly what the fuck was going on. Like, there was no secrets in here. Pictures of Mar-a-Lago, pictures of nude pictures, cartoon drawings of young ladies giving him a massage in front of Mar-a-Lago. Like, what was your take on the tranche, I guess, that I hadn't at least just laid eyes on before, that we got to see from the Epstein estate, nonetheless, too? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not shocked. I don't think a lot of people were, walking around with Pikachu face about this. All right.
Right.
Yes, we knew that it was real. And the fact that he was so adamant that it was fake news, that it's Democrat,
still is.
He still talks about that. Exactly. It just lends more credibility, because the thing that I've noticed with Donald Trump is that the more he vehemently denies something, the more likely it is to be true. And it comes out to be true later on. And his response to it, where he just called it basically a dead issue, and that was his only first response to when it actually had come out. That the day that it came out, he's like, it's a dead issue, no comment. And I'm like, that's weird, because this is a guy who normally can't shut the fuck up about anything, and you've got no comment other than dead issue. Nah, you're nailed, son. That's it. We got you.
Well, and not only that, but we caught him in a good lie as well here on the show, because he went on to tell reporters just yesterday that nobody. He was asked by a reporter, have you thought about meeting with the victims? Have you thought about bringing them into the Oval? I'm paraphrasing the question, of course, but and he went on to say, nope, never thought about it. Nobody suggested it. Never even been thought about for me to bring the victims in and have a talk with them, right? But then I remembered, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene just said earlier on in the week at the press conference she had with Ro Khanna that she specifically asked Donald Trump if she could bring the victims into the Oval Office, and she didn't receive a reply. So I thought that was, a very telling moment as well, and another moment where clearly he's just blatantly lying to our faces in order to, protect himself, the high-profile friends, and get away with this a little bit longer. You know what I mean?
Right. And there was another interview with one of the victims, and even one of the victims was like, well, we're not accusing you of Donald Trump of doing anything, but you still won't even talk to us, still won't even acknowledge us, still won't even acknowledge anything in this, and you're still calling it a Democratic hoax. And this is somebody who, by the way, a victim of Epstein, who was abused when she was 14, who then voted for him because of what he was saying that he was going to do, that he was going to be transparent with it, and then he's not, and it's leaving someone like that to question.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, that right there also tells you quite a bit. I think that, yes, he is in the files. I think there is files, and I think he is definitely in them. And I think that he maybe, and it's just my personal opinion, that he definitely did some wrong things.
Yeah, I mean, it's only leading us to it's only leading us, it's only pointing in that direction. Somebody that's willing to go this far in order to, again, stop these files from coming out, to, again, stop everybody from talking about it. Look over here, don't look over here. Like anybody that's willing to go that far in a case where everybody can agree, like in pedophilia, in child sex trafficking, like, is there fucking anything that we can all agree upon that maybe we should all be on one side and there shouldn't be anybody else on the other side defending these people? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's anything, and again, and to have this be the situation, and then again, to be Jeffrey Epstein's best friend for that long, even if it comes out, let's just, and hypothetically saying it comes out that he had no whatever, like he wasn't involved in the worst of the worst of the worst stuff that we suspect was going on. Just him being friends with this guy for 20 plus years, clearly from what we've seen, not only in the letters, but from what else was going on, that he and everybody else knew the criminalities and the illegalities that Jeffrey Epstein was engaged in, that he knew that he was poaching underage girls that were illegally working at the spa at Mar-a-Lago. And then Jeffrey Epstein's membership was still open and active at Mar-a-Lago till 2007. Like, these are still things that are more than damning enough, especially to somebody that's fucking holding the office of president right now, to remove them from office, and certainly, and to have them never be involved in any sort of political office or hold any power ever again is just, I think, is common sense to me. And again, it's also common sense when you look at how hard they're trying to get you to look the other way. That obviously they're hiding something here, you know.
Yeah, and by the way, let's not forget Alex Acosta. Okay, Alex Acosta with the sweetheart deal that made sure that Jeffrey Epstein was not going to get federal charges for what he did. And Donald Trump later on puts that man in his cabinet.
Right.
And so it's like, do you really actually care about the victims? No, I don't think you do. I don't think you care at all. And I think it's just one of those things where, yes, Trump absolutely, in my mind, did something wrong. And until I'm proven otherwise with the actual evidence here, you're not going to change my mind. Okay.
Right.
Yes, I am one of those people that has to be shown evidence first. I'm not
right. But again, that just is like, the 1,000 FBI agents scratching out his name everywhere, and fucking, that just leads us to ask more questions as opposed to giving us more answers. You not releasing all of these when you clearly said you had them on your desk, were ready to be reviewed, they're ready to go out, all this bullshit. Like, that just leads us to be speculative as opposed to getting the correct answers. And again, if Donald Trump was really worried about people getting their names tied up in this and wrongly accused, then there's really one way we could make that not happen, is release the actual fucking files, the documents, let everybody sift through it, and we can say, okay, guess what? Looks like that guy didn't have anything to do with it. He's in the clear, but this guy certainly fucking did. Like, he's not. Like, and we're running out of time, and I appreciate your sticking around, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you before you left about at least really quickly, if you could sum up, where do you think we're going as far as geopolitics is concerned? Seeing what we've seen recently with the government of Israel, seeing Vladimir Putin's active aggression in sending drones into Polish airspace, invoking Poland to once again call up Article 4. Where clearly, to me, I would just say before I toss it to you, it doesn't seem like Donald Trump is in control of any of these situations. What say you?
I would agree with that. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I really don't think that he has a handle or a grasp or even really a desire to learn.
I was going to say,
this guy, he has such limited knowledge of how the rest of the world works that it is really scary when you think about it geopolitically. Why do you think that he wants to basically do isolationist policies? Because that's what the tariffs are. Those tariffs are isolationist, trying to pull us out of NATO, doing all that stuff is because he knows nothing about foreign policy. He has no idea what to do, so he just retreats from it, and that's it. And of course the rest of the world. I'm not saying that the United States has been the greatest on a lot of issues around the world. I mean, we're the world's biggest arms dealer, and kind of infamous for spreading democracy to certain places. But at the same time, in a lot of ways, like, for example, U.S. aid, which, yes, from a left perspective, is an example of soft power being used to, cajole governments to do certain things that we would like them to do. Now, sometimes those aims are good. Sometimes those aims not quite as wholesome, right? To try to get access to resources and things like that. But generally, the United States still, even in those roles, has been a little bit stabilizing, except in a few circumstances, as I pointed out, Iraq,
Right.
Afghanistan, things like that, war on terror, all Republican F-ups, which unfortunately were continued by Democratic predecessors who found themselves in these wars. But to be fair, to give, Biden a lot of credit, he did pull out of Afghanistan. And I think that was ultimately still the right thing to do geopolitically. And not only that, but also, to be fair, I was also part of the Trump's idea. So, I mean, a little bit of weird credit there, even though I think the motive for doing that is because he does not know what the F he's doing.
Well, I'd say a lot of presidents wanted to, but they knew it was going to be a disaster, and they knew it wasn't going to be politically beneficial to them when it did happen. So they all kind of kicked the can down the road. They all said they wanted to, and then Donald Trump just happened to set it up in the way where he could ensure that it would happen under Joe Biden. And he could put it on him as opposed to Donald Trump's leadership in his campaign, even though, again, we see Doha in the news again with the Israeli strike, the Doha agreement being the one that released the Taliban fighters, being the one that, actually put us in this position and said that we were going to get out. And Joe Biden actually extended the time frame, I believe, what was it, a month or two, and then inevitably gave it the go. And as horrendous, as bad as it was, I mean, it was always going to be bad. And that's what people were always saying. And they have been saying that for a long time. It was always going to be bad. It's never good when you need to do something like that. But I know I appreciate you joining me on such a wild news day, my man. Why don't you, if you can, let my chat know all of the places, either social media, YouTube, Twitch, or wherever you broadcast to, and let them know where to find you and follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on YouTube at Logically Left, youtube.com/Logically Left. You can find my Facebook at Jeff Waldorf Show. I'm also streaming on Twitch. So I do all that stuff at Twitch TV, Jeff Waldorf. You can also join my Patreon, support the show by going to patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, signing up. I'm on Blue Sky, also Logically Left, and Instagram, Logically Left. So, I need to go and standardize some of those things, but that's where you can find me. So
as long as you can remember it, I don't think it's a problem. You know what I mean? But I mean, I guess this conversation has showed us there's no lack of things that we need to tackle and things that need to be tackled, which is why I think it's good that we have such a wide range of voices, I believe, in this space or on the left in particular to tackle, different aspects because, it's too much for everybody to try to cover everything. So, whatever you're good at, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're good at calling out, then, I think that's beneficial to the team in the long run. So I appreciate everything that you do. I hope everybody follows Jeff at all of his different sites. And I hope to get you on the show in the future. You have the open invite, my man. Anytime you need to come on and I guess to promote anything or talk about anything, feel free to do so. All right, my man?
Yeah, absolutely. And I should have you on my show as well.
I would absolutely love it. I would be more than happy to.
All right. That'd be pretty fun.
I'm no Jesse Dollimore, I gotta say though. That's you know what I mean.
No. You're doing a good show. You're great. Great to talk to. By the way, you're very easygoing conversation about some serious things, and especially on a day like this, it is good to have someone that you can have a good conversation with, and I think that's missing. I think on the left. And, speaking with Dollimore, I mean, you've talked to him before. He's a great guy, easy to talk to, very, very good at what he does, but also really good to talk to. And I think, you talked about this space, by the way, we're both on this space. And that's another good collection of, lefty creators that are trying to get together, and we're trying to build something, and we're trying to build camaraderie on the left. And I think that is also really important that we get together and do that. But can I address one comment though?
Absolutely. Hit me.
Yeah, Gina Maynard says, compared to what? Crapping on America drives away the middle. Well, here's the thing, right? Sometimes you have to have perspective. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you have to be willing to criticize the things that you care about in order to make those things better. And the United States is the biggest arms dealer in the world. We sell so many guns, so many weapons to other countries. And, Israel's a great example of that. And that is not something that is popular with the American people, especially among Democrats, among Democratic voters. And so when you talk about the middle, I mean, who is the middle that still supports genocide that's going on? Because I don't see a lot of that. And I don't see any returns for, trying to appease those people when you have a base of people that are clamoring for us to stop selling weapons and supporting the mass death and starvation that's going on. That turns off a lot more people than the hypothetical squishy middle, which again, I don't even think really exists anymore, when it comes to centrist. And there's a lot of independents, but remember, independent does not mean in the center. It just means they're no longer affiliated. And there are good reasons why people are no longer being affiliated with the Democratic Party. It's not that they've lost any of the policy positions or don't believe in any of those policy positions. It's that they no longer identify with the party because the party has left them in the dust. And in order to, and I think one of the biggest problems too that I've seen with the Democratic Party in doing that is trying to appeal to Republicans, suburban white Republicans that were never going to vote for Democrats. They talk, I don't like Donald Trump. And then they still turned around in large margin and voted for him. And
which is why we had $1 billion in the coffers and nothing to show for it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And
but I also being from Boston, I'm a firm believer that you don't actually truly love something until you're ready to critique it, until you're ready to criticize and call out certain things. Being from Boston, the way we show love is to fucking criticize and critique and to yell and to swear and to make fun of you. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't consider it shitting on America. I'm sure there are people out there that do, and I'm sure it can drift into that territory, but I think up until a certain point, it is just criticizing, critiquing, and trying to rework and make better a society in places that you think it's failed us up until this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And look, one of my best friends is from Boston as well, so I'm pretty well used to that. Give a shout out, Tiffany.
Hell yeah.
She definitely is. She's definitely from Boston, and accent and everything, and swears and all that stuff. So
yeah, you get a certain treatment, but it's like, if you've ever watched, anybody that watches Bill Burr or who's the other? Why can't I think of his name now? For crying out loud! Jesus Christ! Bob Marley or anybody like that. It's fucking. You rag on your family. You kind of give them shots every now and again, a couple rib shots here and there. Let them know you love them. Let them know you really care. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like that's kind of a similar way to do this. If you're not willing to call out, the people that you're fighting with, then it's like I don't know if I can trust you in calling out the other side if you're not willing to fix your own home first. You know what I mean? That's kind of my feelings on it. So, but Jeff, I do appreciate you, man. Thank you very, very much for not only your time, but also the efforts in calling this shit out on a daily basis like you do. It's good to be with you on this space. I appreciate working with you. Appreciate being your colleague. And again, hope to have on the show or, vice versa. I'd love to be on your show sometime.
Absolutely. We'll have to set something up at a later time. I promise I'm going to try not to be as difficult to get a hold of, because Normally I'm not. I just have ADHD.
No, I
and so
kid.
sometimes
I
just
kid. I'm
forget.
learning very quickly that, it's hit or miss when reaching out to people. Sometimes they see it, sometimes
Oh,
they don't.
yeah.
I know with the amount of emails that I got that
Mhm.
I'm very good at missing emails. It's very easy to miss
Mhm.
emails. So believe me, I'm learning very quickly that it's not all malintent
Oh,
in people not
absolutely,
responding.
absolutely. Actually had reached out to Dollamore for a long time, and then would forget or whatever, and not fail to set something up, and then eventually I was like, all right, that's it. I need get my shit together, okay?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah. Finally,
reach
walk
out
up.
and
Yeah.
figure something out. And yeah, obviously it's very much worth it in the end. And it's wonderful to get together with other progressives, other lefties, people that we can fight alongside with, that do this day in and day out, and cover all these important issues that we like to talk about. And it's not that we just like to talk about it. It's also the fact that these things are so incredibly important and
Mhm.
need we and yes, that cohesion, getting together and working together as a unit for common cause, for common goals, even when we might have minute disagreements. I think that's really, really important. And, it's something that I think a lot of us do need to work on, myself included, by the way.
I just think the threat of a united force is so
Yeah.
strong. You know what I mean? Even if you are smaller in stature or smaller in numbers, if you
Mhm.
move up and slink upon your enemy with a united force, like, looking mean and aggressive, then you can absolutely have an effect on the battle
Mhm.
before it even starts. And I do think that going into midterms, which are extremely important, the most
Absolutely.
important thing that we possibly could be focusing upon now is regaining power in every political fucking realm that we possibly can going into midterms. And I think having a united force that is, in agreement with their policies, is in agreement with their representatives, has a team ready to rock and roll. We're not shunning anybody. We're not shutting anybody out. We're not refusing to endorse anybody.
Mhm.
We're united. You know what I mean? We know that being a
Mhm.
united front is more important than, say, my petty grievances with, some of what Zoran Mandami has or wants to implement in New York City as the mayor, right? Like we have,
Mhm.
as big as that is, as big as New York is, we got bigger fucking fish to fry. You know what I mean? So let's look at the bigger picture, and let's fucking get on a united front, and let's get some leaders to get behind, and let's fucking start moving this thing forward.
Mhm. And if we can't find any of the current leadership to get behind, maybe we ought to elevate our own.
I think we're slowly realizing that
Mhm.
again, we're the only people that are going to save ourselves. It's not,
Exactly.
nobody's coming to our rescue. So it's going to be, again, the people that decide in the chats here to run for their public office, to run for their school district, their school boards, whatever the hell it is, that are going to make the
Mhm.
actual changes in our society. So
Bingo.
hopefully that we just can uplift people and give people a reason to want to get more involved and engaged in local politics, so that filters up into the nationwide politics.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
Absolutely.
that's
I
the idea,
agree.
at least.
Oh,
That's the idea, at least.
yeah, can I read one more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Laurie Dick says, I saw a small protest over Route 30 today. I was so proud. And that just reminds me, I live in a small town, small college town, and I see these people. We have an inclusive church, an LGBTQ inclusive church. I'm not a religious person myself, but I absolutely love it. Every time I pass by, you got some, older folks, or a mixture, I should say, out there with signs,
It's a mixture.
anti-Trump signs. It's a
Get it
protest,
right.
and I love it.
You got to say
Every
mixture right, though, if you're going to get it. It's mixture.
It's
I
a
think
mix.
there's a TCHA at the end of mixture somewhere in Boston.
Gotcha.
Just sorry, I just something that caught my ear.
So the accents. What do you mean I have an accent? It's not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's been asking me out here, do I sound like I have an accent? Like, no, I don't have the. You guys fucking know. I know I have an accent. You guys are neutral. Like, I'm not one of those idiots that thinks I talk normally and you guys have the accent out here. No. Believe me, I know, and I'm proud of it, and I'm doing my best to hold on to it.
There you go. But I absolutely.
What's next for you? What are you covering? What do you got covering coming up on your shows? What's something you're gonna be talking? Do you kind of wait till the news hits you, or do you have stuff that you're kind of focused on in particular? No, just more whatever news comes your way is what needs to be reported on.
Yeah, I usually do that.
You were one of the first people that I ever saw sit behind a desk with a fucking microphone and a camera, I think, watching like political videos.
Huh.
It was you were early on, very early on. It was Pac-Man and the normals. Then I slowly got into like the Midas Touch, and you've been around for a minute, my friend. So I appreciate your longevity and your passion to stick in the fight. I do.
Yeah, it's been thank you. Yeah, I've actually been around since about 2013.
Right?
Yeah, about 2012, 2013, because I do remember talking about the 2012 election on a panel so long ago.
Don't age yourself. Don't age yourself.
Oh, I'm 42. Well, I will be this month.
I don't give a fuck.
To say I will be this month, even though I do have a bit of a baby face. Okay, shave my beard. I'll look like I'll look like the meme of JD Vance.
Well, here, let me see. I'm gonna throw this on the. I'm gonna throw this on here since I might as well. Let me see if I can put this on the old screen for you guys, because apparently we have had a response by Donald Trump to today's incident, and this is just a minute clip of it, so I can't really suggest whether or not he talks about the Colorado shooting as well, or if this is just specifically about Charlie Kirk and the Utah Valley shooting. I cannot say, but let's see if we can throw this on the screen and see what Trump had to say. This is again just a minute and 9-second clip of it. So again, I'm not gonna say he doesn't talk about it, but I cannot confirm that he does. Let's go.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to.
Right off the bat, like
no
divisive,
wasting any time.
The most divisive you could possibly strategize to approach this type of fucking comment, or this type of addressing the nation is literally the worst possible fucking rhetoric you could come out with right off the jump,
right off the bat.
And the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today.
Again, let us be clear, up until this point, and I can guarantee Donald Trump has no idea if anybody's in custody, what that person is, what the gender is, what their fucking political affiliation is, what the motive was, where they were caught, what the weapon, like he has no fucking idea. Yet somehow Stephen Miller, Stephen Chung, the rest of these people somehow managed to come up with this speech about it being the left's fault, about it being, the political war started by the left that is now being perpetrated upon. Like this is fucking nasty and divisive shit right here, right? This is not a way to, again, heal what he sees as a situation that needs healing, or to quell any of the anger or quell any of the emotions that people are feeling. This is the opposite. What do you think so far?
I think that look, call me conspiratorial, but I think that this is a precursor to try to curtail free speech. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me already. All right.
We were talking earlier about their willingness to use anything politically expedient to their advantage. So I don't think that's really far-fetched of you to suggest. Right. Plus, again, not to put on the tinfoil hat with you, but we're now talking about this, and people are talking about this and not talking about Jeffrey Epstein, not talking about Gaza, not talking about Vladimir Putin sending Shaheds into Polish airspace. So again, until we know who fucking actually did this, I think both sides could point, if they really wanted to the other side and say, hey, they have just as much motive to keep this thing going, as the other, which again does not help either side, and I think is incredibly wrong to do. So that's just my 2 cents. We've only gotten through fucking 8 seconds of this. Hold on. 19 seconds so far. Let's see what else he says.
And it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials.
I'm sorry, does anybody in the entire planet go after judges more than Donald Trump and the Republican Party? Is there anybody that's bashed more judges, threatened more judges, called more judges corrupt than, again, Donald Trump, his fucking lawyer, his law team, his administration, his fucking party? Again, the blatant and outright hypocrisies in this, and as fucking as humane as humanely as I'm trying to treat the situation, and to be met in response with, it's the fucking left's fault, and this
Right.
is, and again, you can already tell he's going to go combat and go after certain organizations here that he sees were behind this, or funding this in some sort of way. So I mean, you can already see how it's going to be used, for political expedience here. What do you think?
I mean, I couldn't agree more with that. That's exactly what he's trying to do. Use this situation to further. I mean, he has already sent the military into a bunch of different cities, and now he's threatening Chicago, and he's threatening Baltimore, and another one of your commenters said it's going to go further than just cracking down on free speech. It's a precursor to martial law. And that's not, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility either. And just like you also mentioned, it covers up the news cycle, the Epstein stuff. We're not talking about that anymore. Now we're talking about this murder, which was heinous, no doubt.
Okay? And the possible political backlash from it.
Yeah. And now everything involved around that, what the response is going to be, will dominate the news cycle. And that's exactly what he's looking for.
Let's see what else, because we got another 29 seconds of this bullshit, unfortunately.
Everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
So no mention of the guy that wielded the hammer at Nancy Pelosi's husband's head. No mention of the violence on January 6th.
Nope.
Again, no mention of just how many times it's been a straight white male Republican to be the one, again, actively engaged in these school shootings or, these egregious crimes that we've been talking about. I mean, again, not to use this situation as the president to come out and try to, again, quell the tensions and to come out and say, okay, this is the time where we need to, back off of hateful rhetoric or whatever the fuck you want to use this, however presidentially you want to approach this. I think we could all agree that this is the complete opposite of trying to quell tensions. This is, again, trying to stoke and invoke more fear and hatred towards the other side, which is, again, only going to make things worse in the long run. You know what I mean? It's pretty cut and dry. So I think that was the end of that one there. That was just
and again,
I was sent and shown.
He didn't even mention the
Yep, you're right. You're 100% right. Yep.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it is so obvious what he's trying to do, where he's coming from, and the kind of the kind of narrative that he is trying to show this country. It's disgusting.
And again, it brings us back to the conversation of it sucks to say, and I know it sucks to say, but what do you expect? Is there a line in the sand where people can only be pushed so far? Again, we don't know the motive. We don't know why this is happening. So, probably not beneficial to speculate, but it's not difficult to see the way we are going politically in this country and the power that is being, weighed upon us. to see, to make the connection to people, taking matters into their own hands or trying to, affect some change themselves as non-beneficial as I believe that to be, and as I don't know, stupid as I think it is to try to take this entire problem or the entire political system in your own hands and try to affect change like that, and to try to take somebody's life away from them and their children and them is absolutely not the way to go about doing it. But again, to see the way that it's being used by the other side, instead of again trying to make sure that we have a beneficial outcome to what is obviously a tragic act. Something tragic is again it just goes to show the nature of Trump in again how they're willing to use anything to their means to accrue and use more power to their benefit.
Yeah, I do have a question. Do you think that this could lead to some measure of gun control, but only against their political opponents? Look, Trump has already floated taking away the ability for transgender Americans to be able to purchase guns, to have the Second Amendment. And when you start disarming those groups, I mean, that leads down a very dark and dangerous road. And so could you see this as a possible, a possibility that he could use this as a way to try to disarm people that are on the left?
I mean, I can't rule out anything, honestly, at this point, that he may or may not do, because I don't even think his team or his people know what he's truly capable of or what he may or may not do.
Right.
But, I can definitely see this being, I guess I'm not like an everything is on fire, like everything sucks type of guy, but it's hard not to go back to the Sandy Hook conversation and be like, listen, again, if that scene, if those stories and seeing the families have to go what they went through didn't again spark the revolution, didn't spark the change in this country as far as guns, gun legislation, and gun violence, then I have a hard time believing that even against lefties that the right would allow any sort of gun law, gun regulation. What were you saying?
I don't think it's just a right now. I mean, Trump's driving the boat, okay, or the bus, or whatever you want to call it, okay. He's driving the Republican Party, and so if he wants to drive them off a cliff, I don't think there's going to be enough of them left to be able to say, "Ooh, please don't drive."
I don't know if he is at the wheel though so much. I might have to push back just a little bit because I don't know how much he is at the helm. I don't know how much he is. I think we may be giving him too much credit. I know he does have the ability to, to sway people into doing egregious things for his benefit, but I just, I don't think he has any control over Netanyahu. He has no control over Putin. He has no control over either one of those situations. He has no control over Pete Hegseth, seemingly, because, we saw Pete Hegseth stop the weapon shipments going to Ukraine that was already slated to go. Like, people seem to be trying to, again, using the Hitler tactic, the Hitler way of governing as like, just kind of listen to what I'm saying. I'm not going to give you a direct order type of thing, but it's on you to interpret what we say at these dinners and what we say at these backroom meetings to then take that and implement what you believe I was saying in my mind without giving you a direct order to put my name in ink, so to speak. And it's, again, a lot of these people that if you take Donald Trump out of it, these people are going to be in chaos. None of these organizations function by themselves without Donald Trump trying to keep them together. And I think that was the same chaotic, bureaucratic way that the Nazis were governed, because, again, it was just who can have the closest proximity to the Führer. And the Führer used that leverage in order to get and gain respect or power or move people as political pawns the way that he sees fit. So, and I don't see this as any different. I think we might be giving him just a little too much credit. I know he's still the leader, but I think there's kind of people seeing the writing on the wall as far as his age and health, and they're trying to make their play behind the scenes to, again, accrue whatever power. We know that these factions break up into when autocratic governments break up. They start fracturing and people start fighting their own and looking after themselves only, and that's how it usually unravels. So I don't know. Maybe I'm hopeful. I'm kind of hopeful that this will be done in a similar fashion. Maybe.
Well, no, I mean, I think you're right about that. What I was trying to say is, and maybe my point came across poorly, is that he's running this thing by a force of personality. You know what I'm saying? Not that he's an effective leader. It's just that people are too scared to oppose him, right? Or there are too many people that are in the cabinet, for example, that are jockeying for that power. And in order to get that power, to keep that power, to try to remain close to him and do the things that he, would want them to do, that furthers his own goals. And so he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of leverage there and is only using that for his own personal motives, his own personal gains. And that, you have so many people for their own personal motives and gains that are going along with it because they feel like they can get something out of it. And that's what
I don't know if this is too small on your screen to make out. It may well be for people, but this is, let me see if I do this, and maybe if I make this entire page bigger, that'll help a little bit. And at least they'll give us some of them. So this is just kind of a compilation of some of the egregious rhetoric spreading online right now. Libs of TikTok, this is war, as you mentioned earlier. Elon Musk, the left is the party of murder. Donald Trump's statement that we just talked about. Let me see if I can zoom out just a little bit to see what other, because there was a few of them in here. Joe Manarino, the Democratic Party must be classified as a domestic terror organization and their members, leaders treated accordingly. Enough is enough. Gunther Eagleman, they've declared war. Sean Davis, the Democrat Party is a domestic terrorist organization whose most fanatics will not hesitate to murder their political opponents. This was not a one-off event. And it just kind of goes down the line. Laura Loomer, it's time for the Trump administration to shut down, defund, and prosecute every single leftist organization. If Charlie Kirk dies from his injuries, his life cannot be in vain. We must shut these lunatic leftists down once and for all. The left is a national security threat. Jesse Waters, Fox House, Jesse Waters, they are at war with us, whether we want to accept it or not. They are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? Again, Elon Musk, if they won't leave us in peace, then our choice is fight or die. Sean Davis here, when Democrats lose elections, they couldn't steal, they murder the people they were unable to defeat. So again, I will reiterate for people that may just be tuning in, we do not know. We have no idea from at least the time that I came on an hour and 32 minutes ago. We had absolutely no idea who the suspect was, what the motives were, why they did this, what the political affiliations were. So again, the egregious nature in which the response, to see the response from the right, actively calling for war, actively calling for more violence.
Mm-hmm.
When again, I'm not going to break my arm patting myself on the back when, people like me and you are trying to approach this in the most humane and, empathetic way possible, considering, the circumstances. Right. And then this is, again, what we're being met with on the other side, just, outright acts of violence, outright calls for war and, civil war and domestic terror, calling us, labeling us domestic terror organizations. This one's saying here, Charlie Kirk being assassinated is the American Reichstag fire. It is time for the complete crackdown on the left. Every Democratic politician must be arrested and the party banned under RICO. Every libtard commentator must be shut down. Stochastic terrorism. They caused this.
Jeez.
So I guess
party free speech, folks.
As a longtime political commentator, as you've been, and me being a newbie in the space, does this change the way that you yourself kind of view how you're being looked at as a political commentator now by the other side? Maybe the dangers you face in speaking up against this administration or against the right in general?
I will continue doing what I got to do until the jackbooted thugs break into my house. Okay. I hope that never happens, but someone needs to continue. People need to continue calling out what this regime is doing. And that's what it is. It is a regime. It is a fascist.
Sorry,
takeover.
that is hugely debatable. Hugely debatable that Hitler was actually surrounded by bright people. My apologies. I get the sentiment that you're going with there, but I have to put my foot down on that one. I mean, fucking Martin Bormann and some of the rest of these fucking morons were not the brightest people. Not everybody was a Joseph Goebbels type of mind that really used it for dangerous and deadly purposes. A lot of them were just fucking, again, the most sycophantic person in the room, which got them to the highest level, the highest position. They were the most yes men of yes men, which got them to the highest position. There was a lot of that going around. So again, sorry, Jeff, me to cut you off, but
no,
go ahead.
That's what I mean. Trump has surrounded himself now. I mean, I forget where I read this, but I got anyway. There was someone that in the administration that talked about how Pam Bondi is basically just a yes person, okay, and that's all she is, and that is indicative of everyone that is in this current regime now is just there to suck up, in order to get something either in return or because maybe they believe. Okay, I don't know entirely everybody's motivations here, but I do know that Donald Trump does not surround himself with the best or brightest. You can see that from Pete Hegseth. You can see that from all the other weirdo idiot Janine Pirro. I mean, who can't? It turns out she can't even indict a ham sandwich. Okay,
literally,
or someone who threw it, and so. She can't do any of that stuff. Definitely not the best and brightest.
And hold on, I'm going to put this back up there just for 1 second, see if I can put that on a different platform. But that was from Fred Gutenberg, where he says, hoping this reaches at real Donald Trump. I saw your confirmation that Charlie Kirk, someone who you loved, has died. During your first term, someone I loved was murdered. My daughter Jamie was killed in the Parkland shooting. I had hoped to work with your administration then to reduce gun violence. I am sorry for your loss today. I would still love to work with you to stop the next one. And that has over 3 million views on X, again, from Fred Gutenberg. And again, just goes to show that there are absolutely people that not only still at this moment, but even before this moment, were willing and hopeful in able to work with this administration and this government in order to stop prevent shit like this from happening as much as humanly possible, at least, because I don't think it doesn't take a genius to see that it doesn't fucking matter how strict the gun laws are. And, just for example, I'll say Massachusetts, if say Maine is lackadaisical and allows them in from the next state, and then they can just be transported over state lines, and that's how these, cities and places get kind of a bad rap. Or it's like, well, look at Chicago, look at this place. They got, fucking gun laws coming out of their asshole, and they still got all these shootings. It's like, well, it kind of doesn't. You're not going to stop the draft in the House, really, if you close all the windows, but somebody came in and drove a fucking vehicle through your sidewall. It's still probably going to be a problem for you to keep your house heated at that point. You did close all the windows and doors, but that gaping hole in the side of the fucking house is still there for the air to come in and out of. You know what I mean? It's like, I think we're still going to have some sort of an issue that we're going to need to deal with. And it's like, until we have comprehensive nationwide gun laws agreed upon by all states, not only agreed upon, but enacted, like the laws are enacted and really fucking enforced, that's when we will start seeing the dwindling, or at least the beginnings of the dwindling of this type of shit that we continue to see in this country. And we may not be a remote possibility to get it at a net zero, but we can certainly do better than what we're doing now. There is a mile between us and net zero at this point and where we are now. Right. And I don't think it's too much to ask that, anybody affected by a killing, whether you're on the right, left, independent, speak up and speak up for what you believe in and start advocating for more gun laws to keep the guns out of the hands of mentally unstable people. Like, I am not one to say that we don't have a mental health crisis in this country. I'm sure we absolutely fucking do, and we'd absolutely need to address it. But one thing I know, for a country that has a mental health issue, one thing I don't think would be beneficial is ease of access to weapons and automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons and whatever the fuck that people are getting their hands on now, right? Like, I don't, like, at the same time you're saying we have a mental health crisis and a mental health issue, can't we also say, like, that mental health crisis, that country with a mental health crisis probably shouldn't have access to the most amount of weapons on fucking earth? I don't know. It's just, common sense to me, but it seems to be really tough for other people to comprehend and to get through their skull. Like, it's not trampling on your freedom to have a well-regulated militia. Makes it more difficult it makes it so that the people that do need the weapons and are able and coherent enough and able to have those weapons have them, and they're responsible enough, and the people that don't, and the people that aren't responsible enough don't have them, right? Like, that's all we're asking.
Yeah, and common sense doesn't seem to be all that common for a good amount of people in this country.
Right.
But it is pretty interesting to how we're the people on the left are calling for common sense gun regulations to stop all the gun murders, right? The gun deaths, and yet we're being cast as the murderers. That doesn't make any sense. That's it's Schrodinger's leftist, okay? Where these people are so violent, and yet and how dare they call for common sense gun control to reduce gun deaths? Wait, what? That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Right. And again, I don't think it's really too out of bounds to again bring up the fact that, as fortunate as today's events were and how we never wish that upon anybody, again, the irony in Charlie Kirk, again, being somebody who at one point was advocating for public executions himself, that children as little as fucking 13 years old should be forced to watch, right? And it's like, it's hard not to be like, well, Jesus, like, let's look at what happened, and then let's look at what he was advocating for and calling for. Like, it's clearly not beneficial to call for those things, because you yourself could end up victim of those same things that you were advocating for. Like, let's be real here and fucking let's try to stop this on all sides. And this was something that was posted to Blue Sky. Nancy Mace basically blaming Democrats and leftists for the killing of Charlie Kirk mere hours after the event. Props to this reporting for challenging her nonsense. I just want to see if we can hear what she had to chime in and say here. Let me see if I can pause stuff in the beginning, make it a little bigger.
I'm going to say this. Democrats own what happened today. I am devastated. My kids have called panicking. All the kids of every conservative in the country called panicking. Just because you speak your mind on an issue doesn't mean you get shot.
By that logic, do Republicans own the shooting of the two Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota?
Political.
Isn't this on both sides?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm asking.
We don't know what condition Charlie Kirk is in right now. Some rage.
Just like at this moment in time, you did not know, again, who perpetrated the shooting, who was behind it, what it was motivated by. Like, it's literally, she's trying to get pissed off at this reporter for engaging in basically a tit for tat rhetoric that she came out to try to espouse herself.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else she says.
A leftist lunatic put a bullet through his neck, and you want to talk about Republicans right now?
No, I'm asking
not at all.
You said the Democrats
Democrats own this.
But isn't there a problem with political violence across the spectrum?
Yeah, we're talking about Charlie Kirk right now. That's the subject of this that we're talking about right now. Democrats own this 100%.
And I think there was, let me see if I can go back to this. Wow. I think there was one more here from, I don't know if it was Elon. Let's see. Ooh. Might be the one that that was the one. I think it was the one that we just showed here, which is the, if they won't leave us or something like that. Let me see. I'll put this on here. Share this tab instead. If they won't leave us in peace, then our choice is fight or die. Elon stoking violence, and I can guarantee you that he personally will not be doing any fighting.
Oh, true. So true.
But again, just goes to show how and I knew how politically divisive this was going to be. Again, as I said before we came on, I wasn't looking forward to having to converse about this. You know, it's kind of torn me in two directions. But again, I don't think it's too much for the side that considers themselves the side of humanity to point out just how wrong and egregious this is, how it doesn't further us politically, it doesn't further us as a society. It is not really difficult for us, or for me, I'll speak for myself, to put myself in the empathetic position of you know, feeling and feeding off of what, you know, his wife and his kids, who, you know, clearly loved him, are feeling, and his friends are feeling. Like, I have the innate ability to put myself in the shoes of people that are feeling those emotions, and you know, I'm not gonna lie and become untruthful and say that I'm not again feeling some sort of way, you know, depending on you know, because of the loss that they've now incurred in their lives. You know what I mean? I think we can both be the bigger person in this conversation while calling it out at the same time, while also, again, as I have been doing, pointing out the irony and the fact that, you know, just what was being advocated for and how it all came to an end, and you know, where we can go and learn from this conversation, I guess. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. And like I said, it's brought up and stirred up so much. Let's see here. Is this one by, well, let me see if I can show this one. I'm just kind of showing the different responses by different people here, so if we can get a little feel for what's going on. Let's see what Roe has to say here on
Joining me
Caitlin
here
Collins. Make this a little bigger. Let's see what he has.
tonight, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California, and obviously, Congressman, we've heard from a lot of your Republican colleagues here on the show tonight, some from Utah, some who knew Charlie Kirk personally. What are you hearing from Democrats today after seeing what happened?
We're horrified. We're saddened. We're saddened as Americans at the anger, at the hate, at the division in this country. I was talking to one of my colleagues, and I shared the Robert Kennedy quote that inspired me in politics, where Robert Kennedy said, "Let us replace the violence and the stain of bloodshed that is spreading across our land with an understanding of love and compassion." I wish we could just be that America tonight. And I appreciated this.
And on the flip side, I don't want to make it seem like I'm forcing anybody to feel a certain type of way if that's not how you feel. You know what I mean? Like, not forced to show compassion in this situation. I am asking you to show respect, and I am asking you to, you know, act, you know, humanely in this situation is what I am asking for people to do. And I'm not saying that you haven't been in the chat. I just think that's something that should be very easy for us to call for in this. But I think, oh fuck, I had something to say, but I lost the plot on this one. What do you think so far?
I mean, you know, I just have to say that, I mean, he's talking about, you know, hate and division, but we don't know the motive yet. And so that's the only problem that I have with what he's saying, is that it's already automatically being cast as, and unfortunately, he seems like he's playing for, you know, playing into that it's
onto the defensive side of it.
Yeah, that it's a political shooting, when really we don't know. We're still speculating because we don't have a motive.
Right. Let's see what else.
Or even a suspect.
And what he said, he and I came into Congress together. It's true that he led the civility pledge. I mean, enough with social media insulting each other.
Oh, sorry, that's what I was saying. I'm not forcing anybody to feel a certain type of way. That's what I was getting at. But I don't think it's you know, again, even if you don't feel anything, I think no comment is probably better than something that you're thinking about saying in this particular situation. What's this one? So let me see. Put this one on the screen as well. I'm just being sent a bunch of different stuff that we could take a look at the end of our time here. Let me see what this one is. This looks like Chris Murphy had something to say. Let's see if his rhetoric is a little better than Ro Khanna's. Let's see, put this on the tape instead. See what he's going to say.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think about is Charlie Kirk's family, having spent way too much time with the sons and daughters and mothers and fathers of those who have fallen from gun violence.
I still think this should be focused on as the gun violence as a whole, right? The gun violence, not only that we saw at Utah Valley, but the gun violence that we saw in Colorado. Like, this should be a conversation about gun violence on the whole, as opposed to, give me your thoughts, Senator, on Charlie Kirk in particular, in that specific situation, as opposed to this other one. And again, not to say, obviously, we're not watching the whole episode of Chris Hayes, not to say that Chris Hayes doesn't eventually ask Senator Murphy here about his thoughts on the Colorado shooting as well, but doesn't seem to be the clips that are making their rounds here. Is they're talking about both situations happening on the same day, and how much we need to obviously fix the problems that led to this happening.
There's just no words to describe what they're going through right now. Nobody should have to live through this horror. But I'm certainly thinking about the quickening pace of political violence in this country. In an extraordinarily short amount of time, you've seen the murder of state legislators in Minnesota, attempted assassinations of the president of the United States. Obviously, January 6th still lives in our very present memory. And
the two Democratic representatives.
We've got to have a conversation about how we draw a line here, and we can't afford to argue who's more at risk.
All right. Well, I think it's pretty clear right off the bat to see the difference in rhetorical response from each side, where the right is calling for outright civil war for something they have absolutely no information on thus far, while the other side is, I guess, I don't know, trying to do their best to, I guess, bring this into some sort of conversation that moves us forward, as opposed to dwelling on the negative aspects, so to speak, about again, I didn't really care for earlier when a lot of these outlets were trying to bring up different situations that have happened as they were reporting on the guy being shot in the neck. It's like, all right, let's figure out what's going on here. We can have a conversation at a later date about things that he's advocated for and how it's may or may not have led us to this situation. But let's, I was a little bit disgusted at how some of it was covered, but let's see. I don't know if we got it. I think that was pretty much the end of the coverage there. I'm sure there's going to be much more to come. There has to be, because again, this is just clear in utter speculation at this point. This is just hand flailing and people flapping their arms hoping to catch something. And again, we don't know. We just don't know. I would not report to you something that I was not 100% sure of. And again, we just don't know the motive. We don't know why. We don't know who. And until then, we're not going to be able to answer a lot of the most pressing questions in this situation. But Jeff, I appreciate you. I really, really do. I'm going to get into thanking some of the super chats and the people that sent on the Venmo, and start getting people on their merry way so they can either go on to soak in this news coverage or rest their head on a weary pillow if they so choose. But again, thank you so much for sticking it out the duration. I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you sticking this out and doing it day in and day out, because again, talking about seeing the graphic video today, and unfortunately you were talking about the desensitivity of people, and I've been so desensitized by what I've seen coming out of Gaza, the videos I've seen coming out of Ukraine, from the battlefield there, that it was like, it was kind of an eye-opening moment to not be as taken back as I thought I was going to be, by the gruesome nature of what those people that had to see it saw. So I appreciate you, my man. I'm going to advocate that everybody follows you on all your socials, and I hope to have you back, or vice versa. Or I would love to join you in your program, or whenever you'll have me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much again for the invite. It was it was a good conversation. The subject matter, not the most fun, But I think
typically
really,
isn't. It typically
really
isn't. That's the
important.
problem. You know what I mean? It's the shit that
Yeah.
we talk about. It's typically not fun. It's
No.
typically not like too engaging or entertaining,
engaging.
and it's good to be able. And a lot of the times it's difficult, difficult situations that are nuanced and have many different
Nope.
avenues to them. So it's good to be able to have somebody you can have a good
Yeah.
conversation about some difficult topics and
Absolutely.
hope to come out with a better understanding of both sides of the matter at the end of it. So, Jeff, I
That's
appreciate you,
absolutely-
brother. Happy to have you back whenever. All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. Once again, appreciate you for having me, and I look forward to having another conversation with you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you. Have a great night, my man.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Appreciate you. All right, guys. Jeff Waldorf, I appreciate you sticking it out for the duration there. I know it's been a trying day for a lot of us, for a multitude of reasons. To see once again kids being shot at school, to see somebody that you're familiar with, whether or not you agree with, disagree with, or whatever, but to see somebody that you are again familiar with murdered in the public eye in front of a group of people is something that will have an effect. Will take its toll on you either way. So I appreciate you guys for staying respectful. Let me see if I can get into some of the super chats and the super thanks. Let me see if anybody reached out on Venmo here. Oh yeah, you guys are amazing. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Nancy. Oh, Nancy, thank you so fucking much. Thank you, Allison. Thomas again, Jamie, Charles. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, JD. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Michael Redman. You guys are fucking amazing. I appreciate that so much. I really, really do. All of you guys contributing here. Let me see if there was anybody here on the old YouTubes. Oh, thank you, Ricky. Let's go. I appreciate you, Ricky. Let's start it off with a bang here. 5 gifted from Ricky. I appreciate that very much. Difficult conversations today. I appreciate you guys sticking through. Did you see Nancy May say this is on Democrats? Sorry, I missed this as it went by, but luckily we caught that at the end. Thank you, Dr. Who fan. I appreciate you, and thank you so much for being here for 5 months. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Michelle, what's her name? Thank you so much for the $4.99. Thanks, Brian. Thanks right back at you. Appreciate you being here again on such a trying day. It was definitely a trying day trying to figure out how to go about swimming down this river of news. Sama, thank you so much for being here for 11 months. Love Down Under. Please stay safe, everyone. Love from Down Under. Please stay safe, everyone. I absolutely will, and I will pass that along, Sama. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. What time is it? Christ, must be early in the morning over there, for Christ's sakes, or something. Appreciate that. Thank you, JD. As always, being here, gifted memberships, just a huge part of this chat, huge part of this community, and I really, really appreciate you guys. We have now reached over 13,000 subscribers. I think we're maybe far enough above 13,000 where YouTube's not going to strip me of a 13,000 during the week just to watch me suffer, because it loves doing that. It loves giving me just enough to break a certain goal and then slowly stripping that from me over the week so that I look like an asshole by the end of the week and not actually having met that goal. But I appreciate you, JD. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nick. Really appreciate you, my man. Seen you in a bunch of chats today. I've appreciated what you've been saying. I appreciate your rhetoric around this today. Thank you, JD, again. Thank you, JD, again. JD was ahead of it. JD was ahead of it. He was before me. He noticed before I did that we reached 13. Thank you, JD. I appreciate you, brother. I really, really do. Is this another one? Is it the same one? Oh, my God. Thank you so much, Linda Lou. Let's fucking go. Linda Lou with the 10 gifted. You guys are amazing. You really, really are. You continuously impress me with the lengths that you're willing to go in order to, again, support channels like this, and it blows me away. Thank you so much. Yakov, again, let's go with the 13K. We're on our way here. I think that may be, hopefully that's like a stepping stone, right? Anything over 13K, and maybe the subscribers start coming a little quicker. I don't know. I'll keep my fingers crossed. But thank you, Yakov. I appreciate it. And it's only because of your help and you continuously sharing the show out on places like Blue Sky that we've been able to reach that many people. So thank you, Yakov. I appreciate it. Thank you, Dame Dog. Fist bump. Right back at you, brother. Congratulations on the 13. You guys are fucking way ahead of it. Way ahead of it. I didn't even know. Let's fucking go here. Thank you, Tiff. Been here for 14 months. A fantastic mod in our community. 13K, 20K before you know. Brian, Mel, Loftus. I can only hope that I do good enough work and bring you enough value and entertainment that you would allow me to stay here for that long. That would allow me to accrue that many subscribers. It would be fantastic. And again, I appreciate you guys for sticking with me today. I know, it's been a day for, like I said, a multitude of reasons, and I just hope that we stay principled and balanced in our beliefs and consistent. And again, if we're advocating for lesser gun violence, if we're advocating for no political violence, then we need to make sure that we're continuously calling that out regardless of who's affected by it, right? And honestly, we need to stay on top of this right-wing push to put this on the left, to put this on Democrats, and we need to continuously be calling for more information and more updates on suspects and information to continuously prove this bullshit wrong, the speculation wrong. So I appreciate all of you, every single one of you, more than you could possibly understand and imagine. Thank you to the mods. I know it's been a tough day for you guys. I'm sure you've been all over the place, swatting people down left and right. So thank you for all the work that you guys have done today, not just in my chat, but in others. And thank you to everybody that continuously follows, likes, shares, subscribes, throws the emojis in the chat, becomes a Patreon member, signs up for the YouTube membership as well. You guys are the backbone. So I appreciate it. Let's go. Find your nearest protest, find your nearest rally, get out, get loud, stay proud. We're going to win this fight. We're going to win this fight. We just need a cohesive unit going into midterms, and we need to make sure that we have the right people to rally behind. All right. I appreciate you guys. What's today? I will see you tomorrow for the 2 p.m. Eastern show, 11 a.m. Pacific if you're over here on the West Coast. And thank you once again to Jeff Waldorf for his time. Make sure you go follow him at all his social media accounts. I would very much appreciate it if you did so. And again, I'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you get that notification bell on. They'll let you know when I go live. That way you don't have to remember all of the different times. So I'll see you later. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Keep kicking ass, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you.
Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. Our Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. Our Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the air. Refer to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small.
Like we always do about this time.
I mean, they've been conserved since the time of lobsters, right? There weren't trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated? You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns.
big, fat, sloppy United States.